Well, hi everyone, I'm Andy Asher. I'm editor at BloomerBoome, and you're watching the Plus 50 Good Life movement in our series on festivals of the world. Now today, we are checking out one of the most storied and famous of all. It's Mardi Gras in New Orleans. Now Mardi Gras this year falls on Tuesday, February, or next year, falls on Tuesday, February 13th, or also called Fat Tuesday, the last day of the carnival season, as it always falls the day before Ash Wednesday, the first day of Lent. Now we're going to talk to Bobby Menino in New Orleans. Bobby is a fourth-generation native of New Orleans and has worked in the local tourism industry for 40 years, and she's been active in tourism and been part of president of the promotion association there. And the bottom line, as you can probably well imagine, she loves Mardi Gras. So we'll talk, and we're going to talk with Bobby in a moment. Now this festival edition is part of the Good Life Movement Plus 50, a project of BloomerBoome.com publication where we bring stories and ideas with amazing people and authors, thought leaders, and inspirational people. It's a movement for new and evolving things that make for Plus 50 Good Life. Now this is part of our festival series where we visit festivals large and small, the ones that are off the beaten path and around the world. Our guests are folks who have visited the festival, large or small, and others who live in the global towns we visit like today. And among those is our guest. We'll meet Bobby Menino right after this. Well, our guest today is Bobby Menino, a fourth-generation native of New Orleans, and has worked in the area and in the industry for 40 years. And Bobby, I'm so excited to talk to you. As I was telling you a moment ago, I've never been to Mardi Gras, so I'm brand new, but every year we hear so much about it, and it's really exciting to talk to somebody that's been there for so long. And I bet you have some amazing stories to tell.
Well, thank you, Andy. I'm so glad to share some of this information with you today. First of all, for all of your listeners, Mardi Gras in the New Orleans area just must be on your bucket list because it is quite an experience, and it's something you just have to do at least one time in your life, even though most people come back and back and back. So as you mentioned earlier, Mardi Gras is a little bit earlier next year. It falls on February 13th. For example, the next year, it doesn't fall until the first week in March 5th. And that's the reason for that is Easter Sunday is never on the same day. And so it all depends on when Easter falls, which is when Ash Wednesday falls, and that's when Fat Tuesday will fall the day before, obviously. But it all begins at the same time. So it begins on the 12th night after Christmas, or what we call King's Day, or the Feast of the Epiphany. So the Mardi Gras season begins on January 6th every year. That's the same.
Now, before we go too far, I'd love to see your Mardi Gras beads.
Oh, I came dressed today just like I would go to one of the advanced parades.
Oh.
Okay. It's a purple, green, and gold polo shirt, and of course, all the fancy beads that you want people to think that you just caught. But sometimes I cheat and I'll put some fancy ones on as I go to the parade. A lot of locals people do that because it just makes you feel good that you got some fancy ones on. But this is what the riders on the floats throw. So it's a lot of fun.
So maybe you gather them up and put them on a string and wear them around your neck.
Yes, well they're regular beads, you see. Okay.
Yeah.
And so when you basically you kind of save the
best ones.
Fancy ones, right? Save those from year to year and get some really good use out of them. And then later on, I'll tell you about a great way of how we recycle all the stuff we catch.
No kidding.
And that's a really good idea too, and it helps a lot of nonprofit agencies.
Oh, interesting. You know, I've been to now festival, carnival, I guess. I've been to carnival events. A friend of mine used to put one on every year, and I had the greatest time. And it is just it's such a special way just to, I don't know, maybe feel like you're from another country, or you're somewhere else, or even maybe you're a different person for that short period of time that you're celebrating.
Exactly. And first of all, Mardi Gras is just part of who we are. It's a season here. I mean, everybody else has, winter, spring, and summer, and fall, and we have Mardi Gras season, crawfish season, football season.
Yeah.
Mardi Gras is a season here, and so it's in our blood, and so many of the local people are so involved in it because they're part of the various krewes, KREWES with a K, that put on all the parades. And so they're a part of it. They ride in the floats year after year in that parade. So there's a number of parades that lead up to Mardi Gras Day. And so it's a season. As I mentioned earlier, it starts on January 6th, and that's when every single office in the city of New Orleans gets a king cake, because you gotta celebrate and kick off the start of Mardi Gras season. So, you ever heard of a king cake?
No. Maybe. Is it really rich and sweet and luscious with lots of fruit in it? Is that the one?
No, it's generally like an oval, like a coffee cake, let's say, okay?
Uh-huh.
But it's braided, so you have a lot of cinnamon.
Okay.
In the braid. And then it has purple, green, and gold sugar all the way around it. But what makes it so special is there's a plastic baby inside of the cake. Okay, like I hate to. They don't bake it with the baby in. But
thank goodness.
Once it's come out and as you buy the cake, you sneak the baby from underneath. And so the person who gets the baby has to buy the next cake for the next week's king cake party.
What a great tradition! I just love that. And the K for krewes, does that have something to do with French Creole or something, or does that have a special meaning, or maybe just out of tradition?
It's, as far as I know, I suppose there must be some significance to it, but it's just always been called that you belong to a Mardi Gras crew.
With a K.
With a K.
Yeah.
And there's probably at least 50 in the general New Orleans area. That kind of sneaks out into some of the suburb areas too. But there's about 50 parades that begin about 2 weeks prior to Mardi Gras Day, 2 weekends prior. So, and there's parades like every night, and sometimes on a weekend, you might have 5 or 6 parades in one day.
So if you want to make this on your bucket list, you want to be there, of course, on the day. But if you can, at least you've experienced the parades and a lot of the excitement. And yeah.
You bring up a great point, Andy, because a lot of times people might feel like they can't. Let's just say their favorite hotel is booked up, or maybe it's a little bit out of their price range for that exact weekend of Mardi Gras, which is generally a 4 or 5 night minimum at a hotel. But what the best kept secret is that if you come the first weekend of Mardi Gras, you really.
No, that's all right.
You get to, okay. If you come the first weekend before Mardi Gras, you get to really experience the parades, the festivities, and you don't have as many people, so it's not as crowded. It's much more comfortable. It's a really great deal. So, and then you're going to get a normal rate at a hotel. You know what I mean? A typical rate, not a special event rate. So I think that's just one of the really good secrets that we like to share.
That is a good point.
Yeah, think about it.
And you're going to tell me a story about the little baby and the cake, or
no, that's just you know, I mean, I have some personal stories. Just that growing up as a teenager, that always was your first encounter with having girl-boy parties.
Neat.
Okay, that was like it is a special tradition. You know, you have girl-boy king cake parties, and that might be the first time you actually, you know, dance with a boy, or heavens, you know, maybe get kissed from a boy. So anyway, that was that's just a very fun local tradition. But like I said, offices, every single office is going to have a king cake on January 6th, bottom line, and generally every Friday thereafter until Mardi Gras Day.
So you've got to at least have a king cake while you're celebrating and enjoying your time. Exactly.
But it's pretty exciting if you do get the baby, even though you want to just make sure you don't swallow it.
Absolutely. Well, you know, like I say, I always see the newsreels or the film and the video of after the fact, and it never really touches upon a little bit more of the depth of things, because I know there's a lot to it, and that's kind of what I find is the exciting part is getting a sense of the history and the meaning and the significance, and it even adds a little bit, I think, to the fun when you know why it's being celebrated like that.
Absolutely. I mean, Mardi Gras goes back to, gosh, you know, the 17th century. You know, I mean, it just goes back to you know, the early 1700s, I should say, as far as when we actually, in the New Orleans area, started to acknowledge Mardi Gras. And it was a tradition from our forefathers who came here from, you know, France and other European countries, Spain, but it was primarily a tradition that was carried on. And as the years go by, we still celebrate those exact same traditions. And in the case of the like each crew, and I told you there's at least 50 of them, and each crew has their own royalty for that year, for that season. So you have a king, a queen, their court, their maids and their dukes, and then all of the riders on the floats are part of the revelry. And so one of the reasons they throw beads is it's in that same tradition, is they're like the king for the day going through the streets of the city, and then they're throwing trinkets and their jewels to the town folk, you know, almost like the peasants, but they're throwing them out to the people, the crowds. And the individuals riding on those floats pay for everything themselves. So it's, this obviously the city does have an involvement in it because they coordinate the schedules and they coordinate cleanup and they coordinate police. But it's the individual crews that actually pay for it out of their own pocket. And so
that's
and then
great.
they might. An individual rider might buy 100, let's say
the beads.
I was trying to say maybe 1,000 dozen pairs of beads.
Whoa!
To ride on a parade.
I see. And that helps pay for the cost of building it and everything like that too.
Well, their dues. No, they pay a dues. Some as low as say $500. Other ones, some of the more what I call the mega parades might pay as much as $2,500 or $3,000 just to be a member.
No kidding.
That doesn't include their throws. It might include their costume they're going to wear, but not their throws.
Yeah, no, it's huge. The planning for it and pulling that off is...
Exactly.
Hey,
and then
listen.
Another big thing is the floats. There's a number of float builders in town.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a big business. And once Mardi Gras is over this year, they get started right away on the theme of that parade for next year.
You know, parades are so much fun, whether for young or old, or big or small. And Bobby, you've given us great information, and as we wind down, what might be some things that people who are contemplating maybe coming out that way, something that might be helpful for them to know?
Okay, well, a couple of things. First of all, it would behoove you to look at the hotels available and double check that you're within walking distance from that hotel. And there's a good reason I'm telling you this, because there's a song out that says there ain't no place to pee on Mardi Gras Day. Okay, well, you want to have close proximity to get back to your hotel room. If you know what,
that is a good tip. I tell you.
Nature calls, you know. So and also sometimes, like I said, you might have 5 different parades on one day, and it would be good just to be able to go back and you know, kick your feet up a minute and then make a trip back to the parade route again. The good thing about New Orleans is that there's so many hotels that are along the parade route, or at least a 2-block radius from it. You know, so it's not it's not an impossible accomplishment. You know. Yeah. The other thing I would suggest is obviously comfortable shoes. You know, and then if you're coming, do plan on bringing a costume, because that's a big part of the event is to wear a costume and on Mardi Gras Day especially, and because remember, at everywhere else in the whole country it's just a Tuesday. For New Orleans, it's Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras. Oh, that is so neat. That is so neat.
Okay.
Bobby, you've been so outstanding. I appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to letting our community know more about it. Thanks so much.
One more thing real quick.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Every single thing you could possibly want to know about Mardi Gras.
Okay.
Everything.
Yeah.
History, future dates, you know, how to get a hotel, etc. Packages and stuff like that. Everything you could possibly want to know, go to mardigras.neworleans.com. It is definitely an amazing resource of information.
Oh, great! I'm really glad you mentioned that. I forgot to ask you about that. So, thanks so much, Bobby Menino. You have a great rest of the day, and thanks so much for your time.
Hey, and you say, get to Lotus how to say, throw me something, mister.
Okay, well, it's on the way. Thanks,
okay.
Bobby. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We'll be right back. Well, I hope you liked the show, and I hope you learned a thing or two. I know I did. The full show will be available on YouTube and at BloomerBoome. The audio version will be available on Apple Podcasts, and we have some other great shows coming up with some amazing guests just like Bobby. So please like us on Facebook and visit us at bloomerboomer.com. Until next time, so long.